Thanks for taking the time to join us and to learn more about 8094 FlexRoad, an NDOT project to improve Indiana's busiest interstate corridor.
I'm Toby Randolph, the project manager for FlexRoad. I'm with Parsons, and we are the lead project development and design firm.
And I'm Mindy Peterson, also with Parsons. I'm the public involvement director. If you weren't able to join us, this short presentation and video is going to give you a chance to get up to date on the project. We'll start out with an overview of FlexRoad, and we'll also talk about something called Transportation Systems Management and Operations Strategies, or TSMO for short. If you're not sure what that means, we'll let you know. Toby will talk through all of the anticipated improvements, and we'll walk through what to expect. We'll also talk a little bit more about TSMO and what a difference these strategies can make, and then we'll wrap up by making sure you know how to follow our progress. Let's start with that project overview and a closer look at FlexRoad. When talking about any project, it's important to know the project area. This project is along the I-80, I-94 corridor, the Borman Expressway. It's a very busy corridor in Indiana. The project area extends over 14 miles from the I-65 interchange in Lake County, Indiana, to the Illinois 394 interchange in Cook County. Now, this is a snapshot of the Borman, and a pretty typical one, with lots of vehicles and lots of trucks. The Borman was built in the 50s. Over the years, the highway has been widened. Today, this is a pretty typical image of the Borman with 4 to 5 lanes of traffic, and we see that residential and commercial development right up against the highway. The Borman has a lot of truck traffic. About 25 to 30% of the traffic on this busy corridor is truck traffic. Also, we see a lot of traffic in general. The Borman carries about 160,000 vehicles per day, the highest of any highway in Indiana. As you know, this can lead to congestion and frustration. Because of what you're seeing with so much development in the area, there are limits to the solutions that are reasonable and feasible. We have to keep those limitations in mind when taking a look at the corridor and determining what might work best here. The FlexRoad project is looking at solutions that make sense for this particular corridor. As we mentioned, it is the busiest in Indiana. Since we have those limitations in place, you have to get a little more creative with solutions. That's why the project team is looking at innovative strategies to determine what can make a difference and improve your commute. The purpose and need is important. Basically, it's the why for the project. For FlexRoad, we have 2 primary needs: the recurring congestion and safety issues with high crash rates along the corridor. The purpose of the project is to identify the improvements that will increase the efficiency of the corridor by reducing travel times, increasing the reliability of travel times, and improving safety by reducing those crashes. Those TSMO strategies that we mentioned maximize the safety and efficiency of the existing system. The improvements that have been identified include combining several TSMO strategies along with improvements at the I-65 and Broadway interchanges. We're currently in the environmental and preliminary design stage of the project, with construction expected to begin in 2026 and last 3 years. Before I turn things over to Toby to talk in depth about those improvements, let's take a high-level look at TSMO strategies. As mentioned, TSMO is short for Transportation Systems Management and Operations. Basically, we're talking about strategies that will be used to improve how the corridor operates. These are options that will be combined and used throughout the corridor, options that should make a difference to you. These photos give you a flavor of those TSMO strategies, things like dynamic lanes, variable speed limits, and improved signage that Toby is going to be talking more about. We have an existing footprint here on a very busy corridor, so we're looking at what's possible within that footprint. There are spots nearby where you may have encountered TSMO strategies, like the Illinois Tollway, the Indiana Toll Road, US 23 in Michigan, and in Chicago and Indiana, where we see ramp metering in use. And now I'm going to turn things over to Toby to talk more about TSMO and all of those planned improvements.
Thanks, Mindy. This map is a great place to start. It highlights all the improvements planned, from added capacity at I-65 to interchange improvements to concrete restoration and shoulder reconstruction. Those dots are gantry locations. We'll be talking more about these gantries, what they look like, and where they are located. Let's start with TSMO, which Mindy has already hit on. We have a list of strategies that we'll be combining and using throughout the corridor. Ramp metering controls vehicles entering the roadway to match conditions and capacity. This leads to improved merging and fewer crashes. Variable speed limits are exactly what they sound like. Speed limits are adjusted based on real-time conditions, like crashes, weather conditions, or work zones. Dynamic lane control involves opening or closing lanes based on conditions. You'll see those red X's overhead to indicate a closed lane or a green arrow to let you know a lane is open. Dynamic shoulder lanes are based on maximizing what you have. Inside shoulders can be used during peak congestion to add capacity. Outside shoulders can be used for emergency vehicles to respond and clear incidents. Event management strategies include things like incentives for tow truck companies to quickly clear crashes or broken down vehicles, or increasing the Hoosier Helper staff availability. Improved signage and queue warnings let drivers know what to expect ahead, like if they'll encounter congestion or if there is a crash ahead. We'll combine all these TSMO strategies along with interchange improvements at Broadway and I-65 to improve mobility and safety along the corridor. These improvements include an added lane to the exit ramp to southbound I-65 to improve traffic flow and safety in the area. 3 lanes along eastbound 8094 will give drivers the chance to exit to 65 south without changing lanes. This will help prevent weaving and improve safety. Let's talk about gantries in the corridor. Digital gantries are that overhead signage that keeps drivers informed. Those gantries are used to communicate many of those TSMO strategies. You see the examples on your screen with dynamic shoulders, dynamic lane control, variable speed limits, and queue warning. These large digital signs will provide a wealth of information at a glance. They'll be placed about every half mile along the corridor and share that key information with drivers. Drivers will see real-time updates that will help improve traffic flow and safety. This is another look at gantries with a little closer look at what to expect with dynamic lane control. Lanes are opened or closed based on conditions, and drivers will see that information with messages overhead. In this example, you see the lanes that are closed because they are blocked ahead, and you see the lanes in use, including that shoulder. In addition to the TSMO strategies, there will be improvements at both the I-65 and Broadway interchanges. We talked about the additional lane for drivers exiting to I-65 south. The auxiliary lane between Grant and Broadway will operate as a 5th lane, and the existing northbound ramp from Broadway will be removed. We have a couple of options we're taking a closer look at for the Broadway interchange. Here are those 2 alternatives under consideration for Broadway. The first is a modified signalized intersection. A stoplight controls traffic entering and exiting 8094 and through traffic along Broadway. Drivers would enter and exit 8094 east at the Broadway interchange via turn lanes controlled by the traffic signal. In the other alternative, there is no signal. A multi-lane roundabout would be used to control traffic entering and exiting 8094 and through traffic along Broadway. We'll have more direction on which improvement is expected at our public hearing later this year. Improved fiber optics are also part of this project. There is a lot of digital signage that is part of FlexRoad. The existing fiber optic cable will be replaced with updated cable on both sides of the corridor. The new and improved cable will support the new digital gantries. The improved fiber optics also provide redundancy and ensure the system remains functioning in the event of an issue with the single cable. Construction on the fiber optic improvements is expected to begin in 2025 and be completed in 2026. There will be minimal impacts to traffic as these improvements are made. We know you care about how your commute will be affected by construction. We work hard to develop a plan to best maintain traffic during construction. We talked about the fiber optic improvements. Work on the FlexRoad improvements is expected to begin in early 26 and last 3 years. 4 lanes of 8094 will be open in both directions most of the time. We'll have a minimum of 3 lanes open in both directions during overnight work. There will be very short-term rolling closures to install overhead signage. And we'll have 2 lanes of traffic from 8094 eastbound able to exit at I-65 south at all times. We will have some ramp closures. Short-term ramp closures are expected to last up to 2 weeks. The 8094 eastbound to Broadway exit ramp is expected to close up to 60 days when improvements happen at that interchange. We expect only short-term closures on adjacent roadways. When we have the fiber optic work underway in 25 and 26, we expect some shoulder closures and short-term closures. That's a look at the improvements that are expected. Now I'll hand things back over to Mindy to wrap things up.
Thanks, Toby. We've discussed Tismo, and now we're going to be talking Tismo. It's important to understand how and why these strategies work. Real-life examples can be the most helpful to see. Ramp metering is making a real difference in Minnesota, where it's in place on over 210 miles of freeway in the Twin Cities. State officials say over 2.5 million hours are saved by avoiding delays. When traffic is flowing better, you see several advantages, including lower emissions and gas savings. There are more examples here. Drivers in South Dakota say when they know what to expect, they change their behavior, travel times, or routes, and that's saving them time and leaving them more prepared. Weekend crashes were reduced in Washington with variable speed limits and dynamic lane control. On the weekends, you have drivers who may not be as familiar with the area, and it makes a difference when they are informed and know what to expect. Along US 23 in Michigan, Tismo strategies have improved travel times by 45%. These figures help reinforce what Tismo strategies do. They improve safety, reliability, and efficiency. Finally, we're going to wrap up with how to follow our progress. We've talked about what to expect. The timeline is shown here. We expect another big milestone late this year when the draft environmental document is complete and we hold a public hearing and formal comment period. Comments received will be responded to in what's called the final environmental document, expected early next year. Fiber optic work is expected to begin in summer 25, and FlexRoad construction is expected to begin in spring 26 and last until late 2028. We want to make it easy for you to stay in touch and follow progress for the project. You can find more information on the website, indianaflexroad.com. There's information about Tismo strategies, anticipated improvements, FAQs, and much more. When you're on the website, it's quick and easy to sign up for project updates. You can also do so by texting INDOT 8094 FlexRoad to 468-311. And of course, you can follow us on Facebook and X for project updates. INDOT for You is a great venue to share your comments and questions. The team will get you a response then and there, or make sure that they find the answer for you. The contact channels are listed here. Just be sure to reference 8094 FlexRoad. Thanks for taking the time to join us and to learn more about 8094 FlexRoad.